begin in Nigeria, where the much-anticipated local council election in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, has come and gone. Residents expressed mixed reactions over the entire electoral process, which saw most of them staying away from the polls, alongside the rise in malfunctioning of the biometric voters accreditation system device. Arise News managing editor Christian Ogodo monitored the election at some polling units in Abuja.
This is the sign of how the election was to a large extent will be decided in the local council election in the Federal Capital Territory. The general apathy to the most critical election in Nigeria is treated with so much levity. At one of the polling units in the Abuja Municipal Area Council, AMAC, the only 2 registered voters did not show up to perform their civic responsibility. It is another election cycle in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, where residents are expected to elect council chairmen and over 60 councillors. But here, at the Federal Capital Territory's most popular recreational center, known as Jabi Lake, you have residents engaging in different sporting activities, leaving behind their civic responsibility of voting who controls the 6 council areas that make up the Federal Capital Territory. The situation is slightly different, but not significantly better, in polling unit 004, where the number of registered voters is 4,008. And accredited voters amounted to a paltry 36.
The accreditation started 8:30 a.m. but up to now, we haven't gotten our registered voters yet to accredit them, because in our polling unit, we are having only 2 registered voters due to it's a new polling unit that was carved out of other polling units around this area.
It's not really encouraging. The ones who voted last time, we did not really see the impact. That is why now it's not encouraging.
This local election, most of the people from the estate, they are not coming out and vote like the way they are doing in the national election, Senate and presidential. But thank God, this time around, some people at least come out and cast their vote peacefully and go.
The turn-up is very, very interesting. And the election is going on very well, fine, calm. Security are also with us. Everything, the coppers are also cooperating. They are doing their job perfectly.
At a village called Kado Life Camp, in the heart of the Federal Capital Territory, voters were enthusiastic in performing their civic responsibility to vote who will lead them at the local government level. Not even this challenged man could be denied his right and opportunity.
The place is cool and calm. There's no problem. We are following everything gradually and accordingly.
In terms of the voting, the voters that they registered under this polling unit, they cooperated very well, which they are coming, no fighting, no argument, no shouting. We are just like one family here.
Results of the local council election in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory are being awaited. Some of the busy highways in Abuja, the Jabi Airport Road, Obafemi Awolowo Highway, as well as the Musa Shehu Yaradua Highway, all empty because of today's local council elections in Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. But where are the people? Christian Ogodo, Arise News.
Well, where are the people? It's really unfortunate that we're seeing this happening, and although it's not surprising, is it? Voter apathy has been a bit of a problem, haven't we? We've observed that. They have, in this election, 1.3 million registered voters. Of that number, only just over 100,000 collected their PVCs. So that was already a huge indicator. You had some polling units that reported one person showing up, 3 people showing up. It's a disaster. This happened last year in Abia State as well. There was a legislative election that had just 3% of registered voters turning out to vote that day. Something has to be done about this. It's glaring. For whatever reason, as it was said in that report, people just don't see the point of coming out to vote. They don't feel that there's any use to it. So it has to be addressed that your vote does count. And another issue I'd like to highlight is female participation. It's really sad that out of all, like hundreds of candidates, like 400 candidates, only 9% were women. Even voter registration data in Abuja, female registration is a lot lower, like 3 times lower than male voter registration. That's if you even now bother to turn up after registering. There's so much work that needs to be done here by INEC, and I hope that message is clear.
Okay, yes, voter apathy. It's been a problem. And I think 2 of the persons that were interviewed by Christian Ogodo put their fingers on the matter. The first has to do with the question of trust. The lady that was interviewed, I think the name I saw on the screen was Violet Ojini. She said, well, we voted the other time. What did we get from it? You know, what happened? In other words, there is that disconnect from the local government level to all the other levels between the politicians, between those who want to represent the people, and the people themselves and their expectations. And so if those who are given positions in the public space, if they do not serve the people, when it is the election time, next time around, most people will not see any need to come forward. And that in itself is a challenge, because one of the major pillars of democracy is the participation, is the involvement of the people, is the people themselves taking ownership. The second point that came out had to do with a gentleman saying that, look, people are not so enthusiastic about local council elections, because this was local council elections in 6 areas, council areas of the Federal Capital Territory. And he was trying to make a distinction. That if this was a national election, maybe perhaps more people would come out. But even in national elections, even in state elections, we still talk about voter apathy. But perhaps it wouldn't have been as serious as that you have seen in the municipal election. And what the gentleman was trying to point out, it seems to me, is the fact that local councils are not as effective as they are expected to be. It's supposed to be a tier of government, but it's the weakest link in the chain in terms of, service provision for the people. At the state levels, it's even worse, where the functions of these local council areas have been taken over almost fully and dictatorially, by the state governments in those various jurisdictions. But what is important is that, INEC and all the electoral units, they have voter education, voter mobilization units. Mm-hmm. And the indication is that as we prepare for other elections, either in Ekiti or elsewhere, or the 2023 general elections, a lot more still needs to be done in terms of voter education, in terms of voter mobilization. And the political parties, and the politicians themselves, must show a greater sense of accountability so that, people, the electorate will not think, well, what is the point? They are going there to serve themselves anyway, so why should I bother myself early in the morning to go and vote for someone who does not have my interests at heart? The other indication in these local council elections in Abuja, in the Federal Capital Territory, has to do with the technical errors, technical glitches that were reported. BVAS, the biometric system for accrediting voters, was an issue in the Anambra election, despite promises by INEC, and other stakeholders that all of that have been taken care of. But let us hope, that as we move towards the 2023 general elections, both INEC and the state electoral commissions, will be in a position to perfect their routine. Now, finally, the other issue here is that if you look at the results that have been published so far, it looks like the People's Democratic Party has done much better than the ruling APC. The chairman of the Abuja Municipal Area Council, the AMAC, was able to beat 10 other contestants and the APC, the runner-up, with quite a considerable margin. And, APC took Gwagwalada. In Abaji, there is some controversy even within the ranks of the APC about who should be the appropriate chairmanship representative for the party. And then in some other places, Kuje and some other parts of Abuja, we were told that the PDP was comfortably in the lead. Now, what does this mean? Is this a message that the APC needs to pay attention to? All of this, of course, will matter. But what came out of it is that in all the elections, the APC and the PDP were still the dominant political parties. And that's the pattern we see in almost every general election in the country, except perhaps in the East, where ABGA, often puts up a strong showing.
Well, you'll recall that was the trend in the 2019 general elections when PDP had a better showing in the FCT than APC. Well, we have another story. So the Police Service Commission has directed the Nigeria Police Force to conduct further investigations into allegations leveled against the suspended Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari. The commission asked for the probe to be carried out with a different panel, according to its spokesperson, Ikechukwu Ani. It also directed that the report of the investigation should be submitted in 2 weeks. The Federal Bureau of Investigation in July 2019 revealed how Kyari allegedly collaborated with self-confessed international fraudster Hush Puppy to jail one of the latter's associates after a dispute over a scam worth $1.1 million. Kyari, however, denies the allegation. Here we go again. It looks to me as if the Police Service Commission is really trying to exercise restraint in this matter. And I'm sure that's commendable, but I'm not sure it's entirely advisable for the sake of the police force. It is really within the ambit of their responsibilities to drop the hammer on Abba Kyari. If they want to fire him, they can. If they want to recommend him for prosecution, they can. But they seem to want to involve the Inspector General of Police in that decision and have it not seem high-handed. That's my reading of this situation, because I cannot find any other way of explaining this. The Inspector General of Police so far has not actually taken the steps that a lot of people feel would be necessary just to even save the Nigerian police force, which quite frankly is already just beleaguered and besmirched on all sides. The last thing the Nigerian police force needs is this scandal tainting the rest of the decent police officers that do exist. But I think the Inspector General, what's been reported from his end, his own rationale, is just looking at the, the storied career that Abba Kyari has had and thinking that a demotion will suffice and a little slap on the wrist and he'll learn his lesson. Not at all. This has massive consequences for the Nigerian police force, for the relationship of the public with the Nigerian police force, which is already fraught at best, for just our international standing as a country as well. So I really don't understand the sentiment. I think the gloves need to come off at this point.
Well, the scandal has already been established. The image of the Nigerian police force, yes, is at stake. And I think it's already significantly tainted to have a senior police officer, deputy commissioner of police, having that untidy relationship with a man who has been indicted by the FBI and other international security agencies. But you'll recall that when a U.S. magistrate court, following FBI investigation in the trial of Hush Puppy, Ramon Abbas, as he is known, issued an arrest warrant for Abba Kyari, Deputy Commissioner of Police in Nigeria. That was when all of this came out. And the concern was about what would the Nigerian police force do about it. Now, the Police Service Commission then directed the Inspector General of Police to set up a panel. That panel submitted his report. In that report, he did not indict Abba Kyari, the police officer. But the police at the time had taken the precaution of sending him on suspension and removing him from the police rapid response squad that he headed and where he became a superstar. Now, the report by that investigating panel was now submitted to the Office of the Attorney General, whose office has the responsibility to process whatever request comes from the United States, either from the court or formally through the diplomatic channels, asking for his extradition. That's Abba Kyari's extradition. I don't have information whether there has been a formal request, but Nigeria took that step. Now, the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, 6 days ago, Abubakar Malami SAN, was saying that, look, that report that did not indict Abba Kyari had been rejected by his office on the grounds that the panel, the 6-man panel, did not do enough thorough work. And that from his own end, collaborating with the international security agencies in the US and in the UAE and other, international policing network, that a reasonable ground of suspicion has been established against Abba Kyari, and that a prima facie case can be established against him. And that on the basis of that, the Nigerian government is considering extraditing Abba Kyari to the US. But in the meantime, he directed that the police, the Inspector General of Police, should redo the investigation. And it's in this context that this body now has been set up and has to submit its report within 2 weeks. What would they come up with? Would they still say that he cannot, he has no case to answer? But if there is a formal request from the US, it's not automatic that Nigeria would hand him over. Although Nigeria has an extradition treaty with the United States, December 1931, it became effective June 1935. And here in Nigeria, we also have the operative law, which is the Extradition Act of 1966. Now, Nigeria has two options. Nigeria cannot automatically hand him over, but Nigeria can decide to try him in Nigeria. If Nigeria can establish that he's culpable in any particular regard. Now, if Nigeria does that, then of course you may not need to extradite him, because then that will amount to what is called double jeopardy. A man under Section 36 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria cannot be tried twice for the same offense in two different jurisdictions. So Nigeria may decide not to give him up. But of course, in the past, Nigeria had given up quite a number of people. But let us see what the outcome of this new investigation presents and what the Nigerian government does at the end of the day. There is a national dimension, there is an international dimension to it. But yes, it's certainly not good for the image of the police. It's also not good for the career of the person involved. He having been celebrated as a super cop and now finding himself in this kind of untidy circumstances. The natural thing to do is for the average Nigerian to say, oh yes, this is what policemen do. This is just one person out of many. But I always urge people in this kind of situation to refrain from trial by media. Yes. Okay, until a person is convicted, is not yet a convict. But it's very easy to convict people in the court of public opinion. But let's see what the due process looks like and how it is applied in this particular case.
Right, that's all on the news headlines. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Roses Adiri, Adeswa Omoran, and Eroneke Jala to give us updates on African business, COVID-19, and sporting activities across the globe. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. Valentine's Day 2022 is a chance for retailers around the world to cash in on the expression of love, with flowers playing a big role for a number of nations in need of export proceeds following the COVID-19 pandemic. For Nigerians looking to express their feelings through their pockets, inflation remains a major headwind, as retailers have had to increase prices significantly to stay profitable. Arise News business correspondent Roses Adiri takes a look in this report.
Valentine's Day is big business for retailers around the world. Flowers are a significant component of sales. In Asia, traders at the Pak Klong Talat Market in Bangkok, Thailand, prepared all weekend for the annual Valentine's Day rush. Wholesale dealers worked through the night as they got ready to cater to demand from supply shops and stall holders. In South America, Colombia's flower producers prepared final shipments of Valentine's Day roses and other blossoms, mostly to the United States, amid predictions that sales will rise once again. Data from the Colombia Association of Flower Exporters shows sales were up 17% through the first 11 months of 2021 to $1.5 billion. Valentine's Day makes up 15% of sales. 80% of Colombia's flower sales go to the United States, with the rest going to Europe and Asia. In Africa, Kenya authorized Ethiopian Airlines Group and Qatar Airways to deploy additional cargo flights to meet extra demand for flowers for Valentine's Day in 2022. The additional flights complement existing capacity by licensed carriers, including Kenya Airways. Data according to the Kenya Flower Council showed Kenya earned $968 million in 2021 from flower exports, up 3% versus 2020. Valentine's Day accounts for 50% of cut flower exports, with 70% of all flower shipments from Kenya heading to Europe. In Nigeria, the conversation around flowers is not one of exports, but price. Flower retailers like Regal Flowers in Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria, have had to increase prices over the past year to keep up with their costs. A set of 20 roses cost 80,000 naira. Last year, those same roses cost 70,000 naira, a 14.3% increase. The founder of Regal Flowers, Oladiton, talked about the increase in costs for the company.
Well, it's been a combination of factors. Unfortunately, of course, the economy as it is, a lot of things have gone up, which unfortunately add up. From importation costs to transportation to power to storage, logistics, and let me come again, power. Of course, they are very fragile, fresh flowers, so they need to be kept air conditioned permanently. Or else, of course, we know what happens. And this all add up.
Nigeria imports roses and other exotic flowers for sales on special occasions like Valentine's Day. The top 5 flower exporters in 2020 were the Netherlands, Colombia, Ecuador, Kenya, and Ethiopia. We asked Oladiton if Nigeria could grow its own exotic flowers in order to one day cut down on imports.
I did, but let me say we are not there yet. A large part of it is the climate. The places where it is grown, they often have a different climate. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but the economies of scale they've achieved, it might not make business sense, let me put it that way, to grow it commercially here in Nigeria.
Another popular Valentine's Day gift item impacted is chocolates. Luscious Chocolates, an indigenous player in the chocolate space in Nigeria, raised its prices on praline chocolates by 53% from 2021 to 2022. Founder Femi Oyedipe spoke on the reasons why and what needed to be done to see prices moderate in the future.
Our Luscious Praline gift box, which was really popular in 2018, 2019, is on our pages, was sold at 8,500. And after COVID happened and we began to experience the exchange rate, inflation, high prices on everything, it impacted the cost of our praline boxes. And that's because we're all aware that cocoa is sold, the price of cocoa is determined by the ICCO. And we make all our chocolates from Nigerian cocoa beans. So that also affected our prices. And for pralines, typically they have infusions in them, they have fillings. And we realized that the cost of everything just went up, from packaging to ingredients, everything, due to the exchange rate. So that's why the price of our gift box went up.
From chocolates to cakes. More of the same in price increases. Cakes and Cream, a bakery and retailer of cakes in Lagos, raised the sales price of a 12-inch red velvet cake by 68%, from 25,000 naira in 2021 to 42,000 naira in 2022. Dele Akinbehin, team lead, customer service, explained why.
Majorly because of increase in raw materials, case in point, sugar we used to get for about 9,000 naira a couple of years ago, sells for 20,000 plus, so ordinarily that will affect the output and the cost of production. Some other factors like cost of importation and increase in the dollar rate, the exchange rate, as most of our products are now sourced externally. We import most of them, so it affects the production.
Restaurants have also had to raise prices. In 2021, Ocean 5 restaurant by the Riviera in Lagos offered couples a 5-course meal Valentine's special for 80,000 naira. In 2022, the price was increased by 25% to 100,000 naira, with the 5-course meal reduced to a 4-course meal. Niraj Vasnani, partner, head of business development, explained why.
There's a lot of factors that go into it, right? First of all, like we opened during the pandemic. So at the time, the price that we set was sort of like to try to get people to come and get to know the place and everything. So, we priced ourselves a bit lower at that time as well. But this year, as we've gotten popular, demand has increased. Apart from demand, there's also the factor of like things getting a little more expensive in terms of raw materials. So all suppliers, prices have gone up. External factors such as the Forex has impacted, a lot of our procurement. So to in line with that, we've had to increase our prices. But I think more so than anything, it's a demand game, right? As demand increases, you have the potential to to up price yourself and be able to get more people to to have that kind of different experience. And
while businesses are passing on higher costs due to necessity, Valentine's Day consumers are making their own adjustments.
I would like to spend less.
Why is that?
Because of the way things are this time around. Things are very, very expensive. If you go to the market to buy things, you see that everything has been increased. So you need to spend less so that you will not fall in the victim.
Chinonso, another Lagos resident, recognizes higher prices but says Valentine's Day isn't about the money.
If the right person is there, if you are with the right person, then figures does not come into play at all. Because the most important thing is capturing an experience with the right person that you can reminisce on forever, rather than just thinking about the figures you spend on a particular day, you understand? Because you know that love transcends every other thing, the money, the place, it is the person and the experience you're capturing at the moment.
Oh, by the way, Chinonso is still single.
Philosophy for Valentine and any other special day is I have to spend it with the right person. For now, I have not found that person. I haven't.
Charmaine understands prices are high, but is still spending money on herself for Valentine's Day because self-love is the best love.
I plan on spending more on myself because it's Valentine's Day. I want to feel loved. Like, I might as well just go all out and do something special for me. If it was last year, I could have, for the same 20K, I could have bought my friends a meal or something. 7,000 naira, I'd have done like a good meal for myself with a bunch of drinks. But now 20K and like I only get like one little meal, no appetizers, nothing. But at the end of the day, it's Valentine's Day. Like, I want to enjoy. I want to feel good, so I'll do it.
Finally, Victor isn't spending any money on Valentine's Day, but it has nothing to do with prices.
Well, I'm spending nothing. And my reason is because for 2 weeks now, my girlfriend has not been talking to me. And even till now. So I think it's God's doing for me. Maybe after Valentine we'll settle, I don't know. But for this Valentine, I'm a free man. I'm spending no dime.
All right, so we started with flowers and we might as well end with flowers. We are at a Valentine's Day event that's being held by Newton and David florists. They've been in the business now for about 3 decades. Charlie Boy is one of the special guests here at this event held in Victoria Island on Akia Dishola. Sir, Happy New Year. Good to see you. What brings you here?
Happy New Year. The same thing that brought you here. Flowers, Valentine.
And we've been talking about how prices of flowers, chocolates, cakes have been rising. Do you for this specifically for flowers, do you think we can ever see a day where Nigeria domestically grows its own exotic flowers?
I want to believe that Newton and David have started growing theirs, so I don't know how they're doing it because I know that some time ago, like about 4 or 5 years ago, everything they did around flowers was imported, but I don't think that's the case now. So, we should find out from them how they're doing theirs.
We heard it from the man himself, Charlie Boy, improving domestic production for flowers in Nigeria, hopefully to lower Nigeria's import bill. Are you going to wish a happy Valentine's Day to Nigeria?
Yeah, I wish everybody a happy Valentine, even though I don't know what the hell that means, but I have a question to ask you.
Yes.
So what does Valentine mean for you?
I think it means celebrating loved ones. I think that would be
loved ones. So there's just one day in the year you celebrate your loved ones?
I've heard this point. Actually, you have a good point. It should be 365 days of the year.
Precise.
But I guess the extra
we'll
for the 14th.
bring out one day that we say is Lover's Day.
Aha. We can work with that.
Good luck to you all.
For Arise News, Rotus Odiri. Happy Valentine's Day.
Well, happy Valentine's Day to Rotus. That was a great report.
Well, I mean, it's all amazing how Valentine's Day has come to dominate our lives. From being a cultural event to a religious event, the emphasis for quite a while has been on the commercial side of it. And, Rotus has focused on that side of it, how the celebration of Valentine's Day has become expensive because all the elements are involved, whether you are taking your loved one to a restaurant, or you are buying flowers, or you are buying chocolate, or, just you are trying to express love. Even with the purchase of cards, Valentine's Day cards, everything has gone up. But isn't that the same thing with everything in Nigeria? With inflation rate above 15%, with a widespread epidemic of empty pockets, people have had to adjust to cut their costs. So if you celebrated Valentine's Day last year, this year it's a bit more expensive. That's the import of it. But it's big business. That's another thing that report indicates. There is a whole, business, small and micro scale business community around the idea of expression of love. So I don't think we should be surprised that everything, including flowers, have gone up. Our chocolates have become very expensive. But the thing, of course, is that we should look at it in a more philosophical sense. We talk about love. Nigerians remember love more on February 14. I think love is something that people should express on a daily basis. As the Bible tells us, I think it's in 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 8, which offers us a classical definition of love. And in his homily on the subject today, the Catholic Bishop of Oyo Diocese, Bishop Emmanuel Badijo, has said, look, people should learn to show love to the poor. Because if you look at it in Nigeria, it's as if February 14 has been devoted to the celebration of sin. And maybe that's where the bishop was coming from, to say we should show love to the poor. We should show love to one another. As the Bible tells us in many of the passages, do we show love to each other in Nigeria? With all this violence, kidnapping, do kidnappers love anybody? Do terrorists love anybody? Do bandits love anybody? Are the politicians in love with the people? Do the people love themselves also? So I think we should elevate it to that spiritual level. Because that will be the purpose. If love radiates and we are all enveloped by the spirit of love, I believe that this will be a much better country. I believe that the world will be a much better place. I don't like to preach, but it looks like this is a subject that requires some preaching. So as people collect those flowers and eat chocolates and go for dinner and all of that, I think Valentine's Day should be a day of reflection. And in any case, some people say this is a Western tradition. Why is it that when we celebrate Valentine, people don't ask to be taken to amala joints or pepper soup joints or jollof rice locations? Must it be with flowers, tundun, or with chocolate?
I knew you were going to talk about jollof rice.
No, because
you cannot help it.
No, because if I invite a friend to a jollof rice place, that's still a Valentine.
Of course it is.
It's a celebration.
Of course
but nobody talks about that. They are talking about those expensive things that Rotus has focused on. I don't think it's so bad that you can't afford a plate of hot piping amala and you celebrate Valentine. But I guess there's a culture.
That would do nicely, I'm sure, for some people. I'm sure it would. Well, now for an update on the COVID-19 pandemic, Adeswa Amora is here with us. Good morning, Adeswa.
Good morning, Tundu. I would have gone on a one-woman protest if Dr. Abati didn't mention amala or jollof rice.
I mean,
as usual
it has to happen.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Good morning.
Yes. Well, it's all good to buy the roses and share the love and share the gifts today, but please do not share the coronavirus to your loved ones or anyone today. Let's look at the updates now. The Cook Islands, one of the few places in the world left to encounter COVID-19 is actually bracing up for its very first community transmission after an infected person traveled from New Zealand to the country, returned home and tested positive. But here's the global outlook this morning. About 411 million people have now been infected so far since the start of this pandemic, and we have lost over 5.8 million people. Well, over 10.1 billion vaccine doses have been administered globally. Here in Nigeria, 38 new infections were officially reported from 7 states in the past 24 hours. No COVID-19 related deaths was reported for the day. Now, the NPHCDA, which is the agency in charge of vaccination in Nigeria, says at least half of those who took their first dose have taken their second in these states: Delta, Lagos, Ogun, Ekiti, Gombe, as well as the Federal Capital Territory. Nigeria continues to vaccinate an average of 200,000 eligible persons daily. That's according to the agency. The latest data are about 48 hours delayed. No reason was given for that, but it says 16.3 million people have so far received a first dose nationwide, while about 6.8 million others have now been fully vaccinated. Again, you see those states where people are showing up for their second jab. Nigeria is experiencing a shortfall of those who actually should be showing up for their second doses, which is a waste of time, resources, and, posing a risk to not yourself alone, but to others around you. If you get your first dose, you should get a second dose as well. Now, the World Health Organization has praised South Africa's effort to produce vaccines to combat COVID-19, describing it as key to helping the African continent become self-sufficient. The WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus was on a visit to Cape Town, South Africa, when he gave this commendation. He again painted the stark reality in the global effort to vaccinate against the virus. He says more than half of the world's population has now been fully vaccinated, while 84%, a staggering 84% of the population in Africa is yet to receive a single dose of coronavirus. Well, in another COVID-19 update, police have now cleared the remaining protesters fighting to end COVID-19 restrictions, as well as the vehicles from a bridge on Canada's border with the U.S., but the crossing is yet to open to traffic. Now, the Nigerian government had something to say about this. It reacted through its Minister of Information, Mohammed, over the weekend. He says he accused the Canadian government of double standard, comparing the cleared blockade to the NSAS protests in Nigeria against police brutality. He's also accusing Twitter of the same thing, although we know Twitter blocked the accounts of those protesters. And we talked about this being a copycat protest, the Freedom Convoy. Well, in Paris, police clashed with protesters. They used tear gas against them. It was a handful of demonstrators at the Champs-Élysées. They defied a police order by taking part in a vehicle protest against the COVID-19 restrictions. And finally, a new study from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, otherwise known as the U.S. CDC, has found that protection from the Moderna and Pfizer coronavirus booster wanes after about 4 months, although they still offer very strong protection against severe diseases. Now, the study, which looked at those who had been boosted 4 months earlier at the time of the Omicron wave, found that protection against hospitalization dropped from 91% during the 2 months after a third dose to 78% 4 months after the shot. Now, protection against the visits to emergency department or urgent care declined from 87% to 66% in the same period. The CDC report is, however, considered very early and very limited, because the researchers looked at patients' visit to hospitals and urgent care centers in 10 states. Recall that those who seek urgent care or hospitalization are usually the older people. And so this research may be skewed towards that group of people. Back to you guys.
Okay. Well, let me go first. Where do we start from? Let's start with the visit of the WHO Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, to South Africa. And I think that the South Africans, deserve the praise that he has heaped upon them. South Africa has the highest rate of COVID infection in Africa, but they've also been ahead in trying to find a solution to the problem. Dr. Gabriel Jesus is visiting 3 major facilities: the Medical Research Laboratory at the University of Stellenbosch, the African Biologics, research is the Afrigen, they call it Afrigen Biologics, and then also the BioVac laboratories, both in Cape Town. And the whole point is that, look, the major source of inequity in vaccine distribution, vaccine manufacturing, has been that, look, only the developed rich countries are the ones that have access to these vaccines, creating that yawning gap. Only about 0.41% of the population in low and middle income countries have been able to have access to the millions, billions of vaccines that have been rolled out. And Gabriel Jesus and the WHO have both been consistent in talking about bridging this, inequity, this gap. And hence you have in South Africa, you have a vaccine hub. And those facilities that he's visiting, there are those facilities where, a lot is being done. African Biologics, for example, is the first in Africa to be producing the vaccine from scratch. And we're told by later this year, African Biologics will be able to supply, both African countries and the rest of the world with millions of the vaccine, which is a major breakthrough for Africa. And I don't think it's because South Africa, has the highest seroprevalence of COVID-19 in Africa. It's all about leadership. It's all about vision. The other day, Dr. Meeti and John Ekengasong, the African CDC man, pointed out that, look, about 10 African countries are in the lead in terms of trying to make an effort to come up with, vaccines in Africa. Now, Nigeria was not mentioned. Senegal was mentioned, Algeria was there, Morocco was there, South Africa was there, Rwanda was mentioned. And I raised the question then, where are we? Where is Nigeria? This same country that used to provide leadership in terms of vaccine manufacturing. But we understand the facilities have been abandoned. As for the truck protesters in Canada, well, I think that the analogy, the comparison by the Minister of Information, Elijah Mohammed, is completely wrong-headed. It's misplaced. The comparison doesn't even make sense to me. And I think that what's the purpose of gloating? Because they have a situation in Canada. What's all that about? There are more important things that the minister, could talk about, issues of urgent national importance, instead of saying, well, look at yourself. You know how they say it, God don't catch you people. That kind of, I don't think that shows enough diplomacy or maturity. But maybe we'll have another opportunity to dissect that further. But the truckers, on Friday, the truckers took over Ambassador Bridge. That's what the name of that bridge is. The major crossing between United States and Canada, which is used to transport, over 300 million worth of goods, almost on a daily basis, 40,000 trucks. So on Friday, a court, ruled that, those protesters should leave that bridge immediately, and hence the police moved in. So they remain stubborn, but as at this morning, they've been able to clear that bridge. And of course, Prime Minister Trudeau, who is under heavy pressure, was also saying that, well, as a last resort, Canada may have to call in the military. But I don't think it's the same way, Nigeria called in the military. One is about police brutality. Another one, the one in Canada, is about vaccine mandate and public health crisis. That's why I said the comparison is misplaced. But there have been copycat protests, as you pointed out, in France, in New Zealand, and also at The Hague, at the Netherlands, where freedom convoys are showing up all over. But the main message is that nobody is safe until everyone is safe. And those who are threatening to ensure that others are not safe, the state has a responsibility, whether it's in Canada or it's in Nigeria, to call them to order. And that's the issue. And these truckers that are causing this problem, they're just a minority. And the government is saying this is beyond the COVID mandate. This is an attempt to pull down government. And that there is international pressure involved. Those Republicans in the US who are, using GoFundMe to fuel prices across the border.
Right. At this point, I don't know if you want to respond to that, but I also like your take on, can you just try and make sense of this for me? I don't understand this fifth wave in Hong Kong. What is driving it? They had 100 cases at the beginning of this month, and now that's jumped to 1,300 cases. Why? Even with their vaccine rollout, even with all their precautions, what's going on in Hong Kong?
Well, we do suspect that this is driven by the Omicron variant. They have had cases of Omicron. We recall that Hong Kong is trying to stick to a playbook from mainland China on zero COVID-19 tolerance. However, this hasn't been working. They also suspect that this came from importation as well as hamsters. Recall that they were also recalling hamsters and small pets. But this just shows how transmissible the Omicron variant can be. I think that's what's driving the case, the infections in Hong Kong at the moment. The vaccination rate is high, but there's still a sizable number of people in Hong Kong who have not been vaccinated.
Yeah, but Hong Kong, like mainland China, also adopts a zero COVID policy. And that's how they've been responding. Yes.
Thank you, Adeswa.